Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right, welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. And today I have joining me my guest, George Grombacher. And before we hit, while we're trying to figure out what exactly we wanted to share with the world today, we were talking about one of the things I love talking about, the deep dive about yourself and your business that you need to be doing before you go do business. And with it being the beginning of the year while we're recording this, now's a big time, end of year, beginning year for reflection and big dreams. So I think it's a perfect timing for this conversation and where else it leads. But before we get into that, why don't you tell people a little officially who you are and what it is that you do?
Well, thanks for having me, Erin.
Yes.
And I am ready now. So not yet, not later, right now.
You ready yet? Yes.
I am ready right now.
Wow.
My LinkedIn profile, my social media says that I am present, thinking, and doing, much to the I get admonished for that by everybody. Like, what are you, a monk? Why don't you tell people like what you actually do? And fundamentally, nobody wants to know that I'm a financial advisor, I run a financial firm, or that I'm a podcaster, because the world is lousy with those things. But
Stop.
I've been a financial person for almost 25 years at this point. Honored to be named to Investopedia's list of the top 100 financial advisors 5 years in a row. I own and operate a financial firm that does 401k plans for companies. I own and operate a financial wellness company that then educates the employees of those companies.
Nice.
I'm a writer, wrote 4 books in 2023, and I'm going to keep doing that clip for the foreseeable future. I write about money stuff, personal finance, but also I write about purpose and goals and fun stuff like that. I am a podcaster as well. I've got a couple of those that I'm working on. I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. I'm a husband. I've got 1 wife. I think that both of those numbers are going to be static and not dynamic.
You're gonna just stick with that.
We're going to stick with that.
Tapping out at that. That's where the bar is staying.
And those are the things that I do all day, every day, Erin.
Awesome. And one of the things that I like about your approach, when I hear somebody who has the credentials, right, that you shared, but that's not where they start when they talk to people, I totally agree with that approach, because one of my premises, one of my core values is connect as a human first. And a label is not connecting as a human first. One of the things I tell people is half the people in the room hate what you do. So if all you do is use a label, it's not your fault, right? It's some bad experience they had somewhere else. So if all you're doing is using labels, that's not really connecting. And I would argue, my own personal opinion, that one of the reasons you have the credentials you have is because you connect as a human first and not just a tactical, transactional approach.
I reject categories. They make the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I get it. We want to make sense of the world around us. We want to meet a new person and put them in a box of some kind. Oh, George is a financial. I'm going to put him over here. Whatever.
Function. It helps humans function a little bit more efficiently.
It does.
Yeah.
But I'm asking people to do more. So
you
have to use your entire brain, not just the impulsive part. Sorry. Sorry, humans.
You can stick with the impulsive part, but your life is probably not going to be quite as rounded and fulfilling.
That's right. It's not all A or B, pluses and minuses, or zeros and ones.
No. Awesome.
It's not all black and white, Erin.
No. One of my favorite lines, people ask you, what's your favorite line in a movie? And one of my absolute favorite lines in a movie is from The Matrix. And it's, there is no spoon.
It's an awesome one.
Spoon, right? Like I don't think people give enough thought to the empowerment and the ability to literally create any life that you want if you're willing to do the work and take the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no path. There's no path. There's no label. It is whatever it is that you want it to be. If you're willing to think differently, act differently, do what's necessary.
Well said. And we've got one crack at this deal. You
Yes.
know, you got one time around. So whose terms are you doing it under? If not on your own, then you're living under somebody else's systems and assumptions and this, that, and the other thing, and that might be great, or it might not be.
Or it might not be. Well, and the other piece is this is not the version of entitlement of sit back and just expect things to be handed to you because, right? That's not what it's do it on your own terms. And I always say, I don't even know where this came from. I always felt the rules didn't apply to me. I've always felt that way. I don't know where that comes from. The rules don't apply to me. I do what I want, okay, I'm more than happy to follow rules that make sense, stop at the red light, that's not what I'm talking about here. But I never had a problem saying, I do want to do this, I don't want to do that. But it's a big but. I always knew I was going to have to be the one to make it happen. It didn't mean the rules don't apply to me. I don't have to do anything. Give me what I want. It's the rules don't apply to me. I'm going to go create whatever I want.
I love it. We're cut from the same cloth on that deal.
So how did you even get into the business that you're in? Like, why that path? Because I come out of financial services. I have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of financial advisors in one way or another. And I will tell you, most of them don't talk like you. So
Yeah.
what
Well, it's
happened?
all by total design. I knew from birth that I wanted to become a financial services professional and help people to blah 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 blah. No, it's all chance. Erin, I had no idea what anybody did. I
Yeah.
grew up in northern, it doesn't really matter. For somehow I went up until about 22 years old, not knowing really what anybody did, not what an attorney really did or what, a financial person really did. I didn't even know what financial services. I had a girlfriend
I'm
my
with you.
senior year of college. She said, I don't want to go into financial services. I'm like a political science major. And I didn't even know what she meant. I didn't know what financial services were. So graduated college, decided not to go to law school. Thank God. Thank God. And I met a
I
guy. He
can't
said, "Come
see
talk
you
to me
doing
about."
that.
He said, "Come talk to me about XYZ." It was a big financial company. I said, "Sure, why not? I've got nothing else going on." Sounded like something I could do. Turns out I was right.
Turns out you're good at it. Now you took a little different path than I did because one of the things that I did was similar. I went through my career and achieved what I achieved by doing good at the job in front of me. I never sat down and said, I want to become the senior vice president of business development of an insurance brokerage firm. Never happened, right? But I did a good job at what I was doing. That opened the door to the next good job until I left that world and created my own world. You, however, created your own world within the path. And I mean, at what point did you break from the norm?
Yeah. Well, I had essentially two major forks in the road in my career. The first is that, well, I spent 7 years as a financial advisor, and when you're good at that in the insurance company world, they want you to go into management. And so I got convinced into that. So that was sort of the first fork. And I did that for 6 years. And I thought, I'm going to become the managing partner of a large financial firm in a major American city. Really enjoyed the work, but I knew going in that I was not going to like the politics of it. And I was right. So I did that for 6 years, all told, across a couple of different markets, learned a ton. But I said, where do I fit in? It's 13 years in financial services. Where do I fit in if I do it all? And so the dark night of the soul searching, this, that, the other thing. I settled on that I wanted to help people. Essentially, I wanted to help people with financial wellness before that was the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand financial literacy is what do I know about money, but financial wellness is what do I actually do? Because there's a massive chasm
Massive
between
gap.
what I know and what I actually do. And so that's the problem that I decided I wanted to help solve. And the then medium or delivery mechanism for what I chose on was 401k because most everybody works at a company that has a 401k. And so that would give me the opportunity to be one to many. So
Mhm.
to message and to impact and positively affect the lives of lots of people without having to take on lots of different clients. And so that is how I found myself. I left the insurance company broker dealer world, which what's important about that, they're very restrictive from a compliance standpoint and for good reason. I have more of an artistic bend than traditional financial folks. So I needed to not be encumbered by
I love how you're choosing
that,
your words so
right?
so
I
nicely.
didn't want some a-hole to tell me what I can and can't do.
Call it what it is. And I watch this, by the way, because that was my world, and then my boyfriend also works in that world. Now he works internally at a very large company. It's actually it's a really good company nationwide, and he is in charge of onboarding and training new advisors. And I hear these meetings talking about how restrictive it is, where the compliance department is giving them a hard time and stopping them from creating a PowerPoint or a name for an internal training program. Nothing client facing. It never leaves the building. And one of their big sticking points to your artistic point was they don't want them to use the dollar sign
Mm,
as a symbol on anything
yeah.
because wait, this is what kills me about business, right? Because it implies that you're guaranteeing, right, results. And I said, really? Because I look at a dollar sign and say, when are we going shopping? Right? Like, I'm not getting the message that you're worried about me receiving. I'm on a different path. But to your point, there's so little room for that creative interpersonal approach in that world.
Yeah. What a horrible, horrible, horrible job that so many people have. What meaningful work that they're
And there's
doing.
people who are good at it and they're happy in it, right?
Yeah,
There are people who are very happy to work within a constructive
you're right.
parameters. I'm
And
just
I'm
not
happy.
one of them
I'm really
anymore.
happy for those people.
It's, God help us, because if it weren't for them, you and I couldn't do what we do.
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, right. Yes. Yin and yang.
Right. Exactly. So what was next? How did you come to create, like, you have this whole university?
But there's a lot there. There is a lot there. I've always been a very, very self-assured person. No doubt about that. I had a lot of success in the field of athletics as a young person, and that translated into career success. But I was unaware that I had lots of limiting beliefs about self-worth, my abilities, and I think a lot of that is natural. Who am I to be a terrible word, thought leader in a space? Who am I to write books or design curriculum? So that's all stuff that I was sort of working through internally along the way. But fundamentally, it was just I had the recognition that every time I'm in front of a room full of people, so my clients, customers, I'm having an impact because I can express something very, very banal like budgeting and cash flow, but inspire people to take positive action. And every time I got in front of people, it was, okay, I'm finally going to enroll in the plan and start saving money. So I thought, well, it'd be great if I could record these and send them out because not everybody can always be here, or maybe somebody wanted to rewatch it. And so this was in 2014. It was kind of on the front end of our
Mm-hmm.
ability to create content so easily and to create an online
Pervasively,
course.
right?
Now it's ubiquitous, but it was kind of early on. So, but that's how it started. Um,
Well, and what I like about it is, the path that you're describing is having an understanding and awareness as objectively as you can. Because I love the fact that you combined that you were self-assured and yet have limiting beliefs, because I
hmm,
think people don't understand that those two things are not mutually exclusive. If you're a confident person, it doesn't mean you don't have limiting beliefs. I think they're worse for confident, self-assured people because they're more likely to be unaware because I'm a confident person. I have self-esteem. Why would I have that? So they're a little more insidious there. But the other thing that you're talking about is this intersection of knowing who you are, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and playing in the sandbox you want to play with, right? And then knowing what are you good at that you could give to somebody else? What's the marketable version of your, the marketable manifestation of the skills that you have? And where is the intersection of that? Where is the intersection where I'm playing in the sandbox I love playing in, where I'm good, and where it helps other people and can be monetized? And I don't know that people figure that out as much as they realize kind of the beauty on the other side of that.
Yeah, I think I think it's awesome that you, I guess, identified that, yeah, a person can 100% be self-assured, but also, for lack of a better term, insecure or have low self-worth in certain areas of their lives. It'd be awesome if I was just a sociopath and thought that
It's so
everything
much
that I
easier.
did, right, I would just cruise through life. And those people that think that they are deserving and worthy of everything tend to get all the things that they want because of that deserving and feelings of worthiness. And that's where we want to be. But I think it's better when we arrive at it through a little bit of internal work than just blindly thinking that way. At least that's my take on that. What was the second part of that? The really important
Well,
part?
and the to back that up, one of my mentors once said to me, "You don't get the business you deserve, you get the business you ask for,"
Mm,
which explains why there's a lot of rich idiots out there and poor, brilliant people,
mhm.
right? It's not about what you deserve, it's what you ask for. And the second half of that was your ability and what your story, how it unfolded of knowing who you were and what you were good at and what you didn't want to be doing, because there's
Ah,
so many people.
yes.
Like, you reached a level of success in a very large company, which usually comes with a nice little golden handcuff package and a nice little paycheck that a lot of people won't walk away from. They won't walk away from it. They're scared to walk away from it.
Yeah,
That had to be
that
a
is
fun conversation. Did you have the kids and the wife at the time? At the time,
nope.
because that's a fun conversation.
I made some career suicide decisions without question. Without question. I just not to get too inside baseball or inside financial services, I became a manager, and then you need to hire enough people and have them produce at a high level to then get promoted
Right.
to senior manager and then repeat, and then you get to become a managing partner, which means you sort of get your own office. I absolutely crushed the first year, and I was well on track to do all those things in a short amount of time. But the person who was running the office was, in my mind, insufferable, unprofessional, unethical. And so I told him to go F himself, and I left. I just resigned. And it was just people were flabbergasted. So I will not put
I have the
myself in
same
an
issue.
environment. I just won't do it. And I did it again. I did it again. Almost so I left that company, went to another great one, and ended up moving back to a different state for different reasons. Back at the original company, again, massive success. Again, different a-hole, told him to go F himself. Good news is, bad news, both of those people got fired for the reasons that I was not happy.
Unhappy about.
So had I
Well,
stuck around, who knows?
who
But
knows? Well,
that's not relevant because I am where I am and it couldn't have ended up any other way.
and it's interesting. So, and I had a different experience. I had a great, I worked with amazing, amazing people, but the reason I laugh is you're one of the few other people that I've talked to. I chuckle to myself when I hear the news and the stories about the great resignation. Like, I didn't need a social movement to tell me to quit every job I hated. And I don't understand, again, going back to, and I'm sure it's limiting beliefs, because the people that I have in my mind as I'm telling you this, I know a lot of people who are very confident and very self-assured and very accomplished, brilliant people. And they are in jobs they hate. And the reason they hate the jobs is because of not everyone, but the people that they work with. And yet they don't do anything about it. They don't do anything about it. They don't do what you did. They don't do what I did and leave until I found a job I loved. And it's going back to our first story. It's, you only get one chance at this. Why would I? And we work such a high percentage of our life. I cannot fathom the beauty of work of the entrepreneur world is I think we might be up to 7 years now since I've had any interaction, worked with, client, coworker, networking partner, you name it, with someone I didn't like.
That's awesome.
Like
It's a
years of
blessing.
this, right? It is such a blessing.
It's not dissimilar to my perplexity, how perplexed I am about people who their whole identity is that of victim.
Yeah.
I feel terrible when bad things happen to people, and I advocate that you become a survivor versus you just hold on to your victimhood. We argue for our limitations in life. We're unable to give up the love we have for our problems. That just kind of becomes who we are. It gives me something to complain to people about, and oh my gosh, this happened to me again.
And then you have no responsibility for it. And the more I listen to you, I think that financial services is the exact thing you should be in because of the role of money in those stories.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like if you really look at it, what do they say? Money and sex are the two things we're supposed to be great at, except nobody teaches you how to do either, right?
That's fair.
Right? You're expected to just do a great job at both of those things. And yet there's no training. There's no, we don't grow up with a good training system towards it. But what the work you do financially really does align with your view of the world, not just what you've created for yourself, but then what you strive to help others create.
Yeah, for better or for worse, money touches everything. And yeah, I interact with it every day.
Yeah.
So I should be better at it, or I ought to be better at it, whatever. But I'm not. And when I'm not in a strong financial position, I am stuck. It was amazing to me that so many people just up and quit their job during the Great Resignation.
Yeah,
because I was looking
and
at,
you're younger than I am, but my generation, I don't know that there was any Gen Xers doing that.
Right. Yeah, I'm 45. So I'm a Gen Xer. It's like, I know you people don't have any money. So you just so casually quit a job. So that's awesome, I guess, but stupid.
Like at one point that confused me as well, because I'm a bit, like I said, do not stay where you're unhappy, but do not walk away without replacing it. Even if you don't, like you told someone to F off, I left and started my own business. Like I jumped off the cliff. I didn't slowly climb down the cliff. I jumped off the cliff, but there was a plan. There was a way to create revenue in my life. It's very,
When debt essentially is the end of living and the beginning of survival for us. There's this great Chief Seattle monument in Seattle, and that's where I first learned of this great human being. And the United States tried to buy his land, and he said, "No, it's not going to work out. That'll be the end of living, the beginning of survival." And I was like, "Oh, that's what debt does for people. Specifically, that's what student loans do to kids. We spend the first 19, 20 years of our lives just living. Then we graduate and it's leases, car payments, student loans, and now I'm just surviving."
yeah.
And what an effing drag that is. And it carries on. Now I have to get a job that I may or may not like, probably don't. And now I'm stuck. They just trapped us. And unless
I
I
was
have,
not a conspiracy theorist until I got older.
yeah,
As I've gotten older, I have really definitely seen more of this, that the system is created this way. And it's finding the balance between living life on your terms, not victim to the system, the systemic issues. You don't even have to make it good or bad. It is what it is. but not the entitlement victimhood approach.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why from my perspective, important to, I'm fond of saying that the only way to live how you want is to know how you want to live.
Yeah.
So, do I really know what I would like to spend my time doing? Do I know where I would like to be? Do I know what kind of thoughts I'd like to think? And I think I assert that most people don't. We have very
I agree.
passing ideas and casual thoughts about what a good life would be, and it's more just like BS vacation stuff. But, in the meantime, the rest 99% of your life, why not try and be a little bit more intentional about it? Why not think those thoughts? Why not ask those questions? It might not be possible, but
And
I
I wonder
also,
if that's what stops people. I think, if you look at what stops people once is just the awareness that they can, right? The awareness that there's the ability to be in charge of it. The other, another piece is a lack of awareness of what's possible. I grew up in Chicago in the 70s and 80s with people from 22 different countries. And the whole idea of representation is important. And I grew up with a whole group of people who thought a minimum wage job that at least had a regular paycheck was such a huge advancement from where they were, that was it. Like if there's not an awareness of what else is available to you, right? We said in the beginning, the human brain likes the predictability of things. If there's not an awareness of what's even available to somebody, it's going to be a harder journey to be in
yeah,
charge of it.
there's no doubt, probably next to impossible. There are always outliers that find their way from abject poverty to Elon Musk or whatever to
Right.
massive success. And those are stories that must be celebrated and ought to be. But I think it's fascinating that if you are the child of a professional athlete, the odds of you becoming a professional athlete are way higher. If you're the child of a successful business owner, the odds of you becoming successful in business are probably way higher because you know what's possible. I think a term for that is having an expander in your life. So whatever it is that you are trying to do you know anybody who's actually done that? So therefore, do you believe that it's possible? It doesn't need to be a celebrity, but just somebody that you recognize that's a regular human being just like me who is doing what I want to do. Then I would dig in and really learn more about that person and research as just because then you're proving to your brain that, yeah, what I want to do, I can do.
And for business owners who's that's who the audience is for this show, I think that we're recording this at the end of the year. While you should always be looking at your numbers and debriefing and tweaking and measuring, there is something about doing this that we dream a little bit bigger, right? It's a fresh start. Looking for those paths, I think, is extremely important. I think Dan Collins, like one of his recent books, 10 times is easier than 2 times, is a lot about that. Like, what is your 10 times version? What is the intention you want? Not just if I work harder, I get a slight incremental improvement in my world, but what would be the game changer?
Hmm. Yeah, these are wonderful questions to ask and wonderful books to read. We just need to do it.
We just need to do it.
You
We
know,
just
I
need to do it.
the verb is in. You know how long I knew the value of goal setting? I probably learned it at 10, but it took me until I was 35 to actually write them down.
Right?
So I know I'm not unique. So I bet most people who are listening just have not ever sat down and actually written down what they want.
Yeah.
So that would be a challenge that I would put to people, and I commonly do. Actually, just sit and ponder. Put your phone away,
Yeah.
remove screens from your life for just a brief moment. I'm as guilty as the next person. But give yourself a little bit of space to think those thoughts. Might not be possible, but what if it were?
But what if it were? And then the quote that I use to remind me, I think it's Jim Rohn. The problem is what's easy to do is just as easy not to do.
Mm, dumb.
Right? What's easy to do, we talk about, well, I just got to go to the gym. I just need to work. I just need to take a walk. I just need to stop eating donuts. None of those things are hard to do. But it's just as easy to stay the course and not do them. And I like to keep that quote front and center to remind myself when I'm not doing something that would be just as easy to actually go do.
Somebody just told me the other day that he said that he'd been running for like 800 days in a row. I'm like, really? Never missed a day. He's like, no, even I was on vacation in Bali and I got food poisoning. I still went running. And he said, like, but it was a short one. It was only like 2 miles. I'm like, okay. He said it's easier to do something every day than it is to not.
The
So
momentum, right? The momentum is huge.
it's like the first thing we learned in science. I don't know if it's physics or not. You know, an object in motion has a tendency to stay in motion. Object at rest
Right.
stays at rest
Or as
unless active.
COVID taught us, an object in sweatpants on the couch stays in sweatpants on the couch.
Right.
Totally.
Valuable learnings.
Just how that still feels. So if people want to continue the conversation with you and learn how this really translates to your money, and I think that's a really important point that not enough people make, like the connect the dots here. There's literally one dot of separation. This is not a lot of steps. That what we're talking about, most people view just in the realm of self-improvement, but money is so tightly connected to this. And if they want to continue that conversation with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you and find you?
Best way to get a hold of me is my financial wellness company, and that's called Money Alignment Academy. It's moneyalignmentacademy.com. They could check that out. I obviously think a lot about money, but I think about 6 key areas. I think about family, community, money, and our work, well-being, personal development, and then peace of mind. And I think it's foolish to just think about things in silos or vacuums because it's all touching everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is touching everything else, Erin.
Yes, it is.
But
we also learned that because of COVID.
Even though we did not learn that because we don't know about the sex thing, we're supposed to learn how to be good at sex and money. Brought it all the way back. I just wrote a book called The Purpose Book, and it is, I think that the subtitle is Your Guide to an Examined and Aligned Life. And there's a lot of audacity to actually write a book called The Purpose Book, but I just went ahead and did it. And that's my take on just how do you live an examined life? Because as the smart Greek guy said, an examined life, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
And then the more aligned we can be with just everything. How do we line everything up? How do we live according to our values and what's most important to us and our purpose and our goals? And how do I create habits around those things? And if that's of interest, then you can get a copy of The Purpose Book on Amazon. It's $20 and it's only 85 pages. So find your life's purpose in 90 minutes.
Well, and truthfully, I think the more direct, the better. I think people don't do this type of introspection because they think it's hard and they think it's difficult. And I think if you just kind of start, get a guide, be surprised what you can come up with.
I think it's amazing.
Awesome.
I think that the better job we can do at thinking, the better off we'll be. I also assert that there's probably never been a more important time to be thinking your own thoughts and coming to your own conclusions.
We can do a different show on that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely.
It's a good starting point.
It's a good starting point for round 2. Absolutely. Well, thank you for spending time with me today and your stories. And it's not often I get to have this type of conversation on top of a money conversation. So I'm very happy for that perspective. Thank you for spending time with me.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.